All right, back for another week of the Inside the Sports Den, right, James? That's the name of the podcast, whatever
Yeah,
it is.
something like that. We'll figure out the name of this eventually.
It doesn't matter. It's another week for our podcast. The podcast without ring lights or fancy microphones or neat backdrops. I'm in Albuquerque right now. I just attended the Jason Eck press conference ahead of the UNM's football season opener on Saturday. They're playing Michigan, so I'm right outside the stadium here. James, back in the Hall of Justice, which is better known as his living room. It looks
Living
like
room,
so.
yeah.
Yeah,
I was
look
gonna
the
say that is a great picture behind you. Who painted that?
right. Yeah, it's a Bob Ross special. It's a lot of happy trees behind me, so I'm sure one of these days, probably in another week or so, you'll see dozens of people walk right through that door over there. So,
You mean
the
ones
football,
of people, not
the
dozens.
ones of tens of people. So yeah, UNM season opener is this Saturday. They're on national TV. They're on NBC against the University of Michigan. 107,000 people are expected, which would make it the most attended game in Mountain West Conference history. And by far, UNM's I think the largest crowd they've ever played in front of is either at Tennessee or Texas A&M, one of those two.
Yeah, it's one of those two. Yeah.
So yeah, it's but I did ask the burning question, which everyone probably wants to know. I asked Jason Eck today, what uniforms do you guys going to wear? Because look, last week they made the big splash with turquoise jerseys and the red pants and the red helmets. He said they're going with all white helmets, basically the generic. And I was like, you really
The generic.
such an opportunity to bust loose here, and you're wearing the generic uniform. So
Well,
there you go.
I mean, those special uniforms, man. There's only so many times you can use those,
Yeah,
and I'm
I
sure
guess.
they want to make sure that they can send it back at the end of the year, and
Yeah.
get their money back.
Right. Well, hey, last weekend was the start of the high school football season. You and I both had. You were in Santa Fe. You were watching the Demons and the Jaguars game, which turned out to be not very good. And then, of course,
No, it
I
wasn't.
yeah, I went to Taos for a 6 o'clock game that didn't start till close to 8:30.
8:30.
Yeah, so that made for quite the adventurous night for me. But my game wasn't very good either. So we both saw shutouts. But look, are the Jaguars that bad, or are the Demons better than we thought?
I'm gonna say it's a little bit of both. I think I kind of thought Santa Fe High was clearly the better team. A little bit more veteran. They're a little bit stronger, a little bit older, especially up at on the offensive and defensive lines, and that's where Capital's going to struggle this year. They're just not a very big team, and I'm not sure how strong they really are if they can be physical like John Michael Salazar wants them to be running the ball. Santa Fe High, they look fairly sharp. I mean, really, it could have been easily a 50-0 or a 52-0 game, if not for three turnovers that the Demons had. Um, Jose Rivera threw two picks in the end zone, that took away touchdowns right there. But other than that, they ran the ball really well. They ran for about 140 yards. They had over 300 yards of total offense. Despite those two picks there, Jose looked really good. He went 10 for 17, 134 yards. Didn't throw a touchdown, unfortunately, but the offense operated the way it should. I'll be interested to see what happens, this Friday when they play Belen. That should be a pretty good a better test for Santa Fe High as far as where they're at. They had to rally last year. I think they were down 28-7. I think you were there at that game. They had to rally from a 28-7 deficit to win that one last year. If it's anything like that, that's probably not a good sign. But if they can go in there and beat Belen by, 25, 30 points like they did Capital, it might lend some hope to seeing, maybe they might have a shot at beating St. Mike's in week 3. But as it is right now, I'm kind of like, all right, I'm holding off on my enthusiasm until I get a little bit more data to figure out how good they really are. But they could be good.
Yeah, speaking of enthusiasm, I cannot wait to watch Capital mop the floor with St. Mike's this weekend. I did tell all the St. Mike's people that on this podcast, I'm going to pick St. Mike's to lose every single time this year, just to see what happens. Of course, the print edition comes out later in the week, and that's when reality sets in. I'll make my real picks then. But for the rest of this podcast, for the rest of the season, St. Mike's is
You're
going to go
totally
0-10. They're going
you.
0-10. I think Capital's offense might bust out. We're looking at 40, 50 points against that defense. Golly, it's going to be a bloodbath. But
I
no,
I, I, ad- I admire your willingness to stick to that, because the only team that's going to be scoring 30 or 40 or even 50 points is going to be St. Mike's.
Yeah, I didn't. I must have heard from every single St. Mike's person at the game. What? You picked them to score 30 points against us? Are you kidding me? Well, but no, Capital's going to surpass that by halftime. It's just going to be crazy. No, but I did have a chance to see St. Mike's. St. Mike's did, they looked really good for the most part in their game last week. You got a guy driving right behind me. Hang on a second.
Yeah,
Not quite the Andrew
you
Dunn
should have stopped that guy.
podcast.
He could have been our interview for today.
Yeah, asked him how they're mowing the grass inside the AstroTurf Stadium right behind me. But no, I had a chance to see St. Mike's against Taos. Of course, they won that game 26-0. Kamal Stith, the debut as a starting quarterback for St. Mike's, went just about as well as it could have been. He threw for 2 touchdowns, ran for 2, and of course the game didn't start till about 8:15, 8:20. Which really puts a lot of pressure on the newspaper guys who have 10:30 deadlines. Yeah. So I was literally writing my story underneath the goalposts of one of the end zones when he scored his last touchdown. It was his 25-yard run where he zigzags across the field, runs diagonally into the end zone, and I'm sitting right there. He runs up and daps me up as he's in his celebration. So good job, Kamal. Kamal Stith looked as good as advertised in that offense. Once it gets going, if they can avoid all the little preamble injuries that you get with the leg cramps and the heat exhaustion, once that team settles in offensively, they're going to be pretty good. Because going into it, I think you and I talked about it. There's only 2 teams on their schedule that could really push them, and one of them was Taos. The other one maybe being Robertson right at the very end of the season. So, yeah, there goes our buddy right there.
Dude,
Yeah.
he totally wants screen time, man. He's begging for an interview.
He's
Come
gonna
on.
just keep driving back and forth.
He doesn't come back unless he knows what we're doing. Come on.
Yeah, I should have just stayed home and done this with my dogs barking in the background. That's what I could have done.
I think that's a much better option.
Yeah. So look,
if he comes back a third time, you just need to stop him.
Right. But yeah, week 1 was there were really not a lot of surprises. Los Alamos looked pretty good. We kind of expected that to happen. Milwaukee, dominant shutout. You called that one last week. You said they'd probably win in that 50-0 range, and they sure as heck did. So yeah, look, I think we kind of, not to sound like Lovie Smith or whoever the coach was for the Bears, but or no, who was it? It was Dennis Green. They are who we thought they were.
They are who we thought they were. Yes,
they are who we thought they were. So no surprises with high school football. But really, if you had to dig deep and find anything that caught you off guard, what would it be from week 1?
Actually, I would definitely say it was the Los Alamos Espanola score on Saturday. Granted, it was still a 21-6 game going into the second half, but Los Alamos putting up 30 points to win that game 51-26. Good for them. I mean, obviously it shows where they're at right now offensively. I mean, especially when you can score 21 points when they didn't score 1 last year in that first game against Espanola. Big difference. And I think we have our answer with where Espanola is going to be, and I think they're going to be right back where they were before. That was not a good outing. Obviously, the offense struggled. The defense, I'm sure, got tired out, and that's a big reason why they posted 50 and so many points in the second half. They've got some things to work on, and Coach Holbrook, he's got to get back to the drawing board and change some things up there, because Espanola, I kind of had a feeling either they were gonna carry the momentum that they had from last year into this year and have another good year, or this thing could get ugly really fast. And 51-6 tells me that it's probably more the latter than the former.
Yeah, which is too bad, because they had such a good story last year. They kind of did come out of nowhere with a very simplistic offense, but yeah, I think in some ways it kind of illustrates the depth of that program. Is you're good enough for these cloud bursts every now and then where it looks great, like they did 10 years ago when they won that first district championship and they lost to Farmington in the playoffs, and then last year. So it might be one of these things where you have to have the right kids come up, you have to have the right coach in place, and everything has to fall in line in order for them to work, because that sustainability from year to year at Espanola is just not as easy as it is in other sports like basketball. You can probably maintain it for a while, but football is still kind of a foreign language to a lot of these schools up here. So yeah, it's a bummer. It's a bummer about them. But look, this weekend, of course, the main attraction in Santa Fe is the burning of Zozobra on Friday night, which you and I have been around Santa. I grew up in Santa Fe, and my memories from Zozobra are all from as a kid. As an adult, I think the last time I actually watched Zozobra in person, I was in college, maybe, and that was 30 years ago. So,
Yeah, it's been 25 for me. So
what's your fondest memory of Zozobra night?
the traffic. I hate the traffic. That's it.
Yeah.
That's about the only thing I know of Zozobra. I mean, 30 years ago I went. My one and only time that I did it. Once I saw it burn, I was like, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
That's really the whole deal. And I've never been back since.
I've always thought they should put some flame retardant, some stuff in there, like some asbestos, just to keep them burning for a little bit longer. But
Like
yeah, mine
overnight.
was always as a kid because they would let you out of school early on a Friday, and you could kind of go out and camp out on the baseball field and just goof off with your friends and have fun. But it was always just one of these things where you'd wait around all day and it was over in 2 minutes. So,
Yeah, yeah,
but
it
as a
totally
kid,
was.
it's just like going to Balloon Fiesta if you live in Albuquerque. It's just one of these things where you got to go and experience it. But look, our newsroom is not that far from Fort Marcy, and I remember I got rookie hazed by you guys when I first started at the New Mexican. That I was in the office taking phone calls on one of those overnights, and it was like it was just a nightmare getting out of there. Downtown was
Yeah, it
completely
was right. Yeah,
gridlocked.
especially 9, 10 o'clock. That's the worst time to go.
It was just terrible. So, yeah, the best thing for us is there are no football games in Santa Fe on Friday night. We
No,
can
there
just
isn't.
leave town. Now we can get out of town and just avoid all of that. So,
Absolutely, and I'm kind of looking forward to that. I think my plan is probably to go down to Belen and catch Santa Fe High there. I mean, clearly I don't even think you'll probably leave home, will you, on Friday?
well, and Thursday I have to make the drive down to Portales to watch Eastern New Mexico and New Mexico Highlands. Of course, the Highlands season opener is for whatever reason they're doing it on a Thursday night in at Eastern. So I want to go down there and see just how good New Mexico Highlands is. They've got 11 players who are Division One recruits, including a lineman who started his career, who played 2 years at Michigan, which tells you this guy just fell off the face of
Yeah,
the earth to
yeah,
start your career in the Big Ten and 2 years at Michigan to playing at New Mexico Highlands in Division
yeah. I
Two.
was gonna say when you go from Ann Arbor to Las Vegas, you've made a lot of bad decisions in your life.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm really looking forward to the 3.5 4 hour drive from to get down to Portales for that one. And considering the road trip adventure I had last week coming back from Taos, I can't wait to see what kind of animals I have to dodge or obstacles in the road because we were talking before we came on, James. I'm driving back from the Taos game last week, and I funny thing is I'm big into audiobooks. I really love listening to audiobooks. I'm right in the middle of listening to it. And so it's 44 hours long on Audible. If you've ever it's I'm like on month 2 of listening to it. And so I'm just
Dang.
kind of lost listening to the version of it that I where I am. And I'm just driving along north of Rio Rancho, and there's one of those giant 18 wheelers, the shredded tire right in my path. I couldn't avoid it. Ran right over the top of it, and it just ripped all the
The
undercarriage
undercarriage
stuff off my
and yeah.
car. Yeah, and of course it sounded like I ran over a person, and middle of the
At least
night.
there's no blood that you had to and guts you had to bring out of there. So
Oh, good gravy! It was the game started 2.5 hours late. It ran long. I on deadline crunch, and then
and
I
then you get home at like 3 in the morning, right?
yeah, of course there's in Taos everything shuts down at like 6 o'clock. So there's
Oh
nowhere to
yeah,
go to eat.
yeah.
And so yeah, I'm driving back, and that happened. So yeah, Saturday was fun. Got up and on 3 hours of sleep, played basketball with our group of friends that you and I have, and then I
Yep.
spent 4 hours underneath my car in my garage trying to fix the undercarriage of my vehicle. So yeah, it was good. So I can't wait to see what happens in Portales. Maybe a UFO will land or something.
It's either going to be a UFO or a cow, dude. You're going to hit one of those.
Some huge lightning, just electrical storm I'm driving through. Maybe one of those haboobs that you always see all
No,
the
that's
time.
that's actually what it's going to be, dude. You're going to do another lightning delay.
Yeah.
You're going to be there till like 11 o'clock at night watching bad lightning.
In college football games, if you've never been to a college football game, probably don't
Oh my
go
lord,
because
yeah.
they take a good 3.5, almost 4 hours. Because even at that Division II level, they have the mandatory timeouts for
Hmm.
whatever reason. They have TV timeouts at Division Two. It's like, who is
No
watching
reason.
this? Who's this? No one's even watching this on YouTube. Come on. So
Heck, you're
yeah,
lucky people are listening to it on the radio. They're doing it just to either fall asleep or find something to pass the time while they're on the road.
yeah. So that'll be fun. It's always interesting to go watch New Mexico Highlands. It's probably the one time a year I will go watch them play as their season opener, or if they're playing a nationally ranked team at the end of the season. It's always interesting to go up there and see it. But you can get a sense that there's some momentum in Las Vegas, that the team might not go 1-9 this year. They could actually be a little bit better than that. So we'll
2-8 sounds a lot better than 1-9 or
see.
2-9.
Yeah. Maybe win a couple of games. Of course, they only play 2 non-conference games the entire season, and they're right off the bat. They play.
And then you go right into conference play.
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll do what we always do. We'll just make stuff up as we go along
Yes,
in
we
our
will.
sports podcast. We'll wrap it up, but we'll be right back. Well, look, behind me is University Stadium, home of the New Mexico football team, which of course opens its season on Saturday against 14th ranked Michigan, which, look, on paper is not a good matchup for
No, it's
New
not.
Mexico. But the good thing is you're getting $1.8 million out of playing this game. That was the agreement, the contractual agreement between the schools. So that'll fund a lot of the office supplies around here. So that's a good thing for UNM. But other than that, it is a mismatch everywhere you go. But James, I know you're going to go out on a limb. You're going to pick the Lobos in this game, aren't you? You're wearing your cherry and silver socks.
Yeah, 3-0, dude. That's what it's going to be. 3-0. They're gonna win it on a walk-off field goal. They're
If
going to hold
Appalachian State can do it,
rushing.
if App State can do it, why not UNM?
Why not? Why not?
Yeah, it's a tough order. But one of the questions I did ask is about Michigan starting quarterback Bryce Underwood, who's the the $12.5 million NIL guy. And I said, look, this kid he literally still a kid. He just turned 17 or just turned 18, and he's a freshman quarterback playing his first game in front of basically his hometown fans. He's got 109,000 people there. It's on national TV for a top 25 program. He's got to be the most nervous person in that building. So
Clearly.
can you do anything defensively? Like get after him, try to do something. And I think if there's a target on that field, it's probably going to be him. But you have to remember, Bryce Underwood is a 5-star recruit. He's like the top recruit in the country, and Michigan got him. So the guy is good for a reason. But we'll see. Look, stranger things have happened. Like a giant comet killed all the dinosaurs 65 million years ago, and maybe he's as over jumps off his podium and runs off in the distance. Stranger things could happen than the Lobo upset, but I'm not sure that's going to actually unfold that way.
I think you're wishing. You're picking with your heart more than with your brain.
Yeah. Well, look, UNM has got 75 new players on this roster. It's a 105 player roster limit. They've got 85 scholarships. 75 players are brand new. So one of the things that Jason Eck said today in his media luncheon was they're still trying to get to know each other. And so they're going to break up into small groups this week and do non-football related activities, which is basically like make sure when you walk into the room, grab a name tag.
Yeah. My name is.
And then tell me something interesting, like your favorite food is Chick-fil-A or something. So it's to that point. The fact is, we just don't know what to expect out of UNM. But historically speaking, I don't know.
Shouldn't expect much. I think is really the ultimate is really the bottom line, isn't it?
Yeah. And then look, anyone who watched college football last weekend might have seen that Idaho State opened its season against UNLV, which UNLV is picked number 2 in the preseason in the Mountain West.
Mm-hmm.
And they almost beat UNLV, and that's who the Lobos
Yeah.
play next week. They're playing Idaho State right here in this building. So, look, I know I've said this before, but UNM's home schedule is favorable. They can win probably 4 or 5 of them if all things go right. But when you look at Idaho State almost beating UNLV in Las Vegas, it's like, yikes. So
yeah. Isn't that kind of ironic here? I mean, we're talking about everybody's kind of made a big deal about the Lobos seeing their former coach in Bronco, but now What about Eck?
And here's what I like about Jason Eck is he has got. Sorry about the loud traffic. right outside Isotopes Park, and of course everyone's driving like maniacs here. But one thing I like about Jason Eck is the guy. He does seem to have the personality that fits this team. He's
Yeah.
pretty laid back. He's not a stoic, pragmatic type like Bronco Mendenhall was last year. And Danny Gonzalez, he was fun to be around. He's fun to talk to, but I'm not sure Danny Gonzalez really saw the bigger picture. This guy grew up in a coaching family. He's got experience in the Big Ten at Wisconsin as a player and a coach. And so he understands, like, look, man, no one's picking us to win this game. So let's just go in there and have fun. Let's just see what happens. Because if we lose 55-10, we're supposed to lose 55-10.
So is he just going to come out and run the swinging gate right off the bat?
Just run the swing and then send all 11 guys to that freshman quarterback and see what happens.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Just don't even guard the receivers. Send all 11 guys after him. So what's the worst that could happen? They're going to score a touchdown.
They're going to score a touchdown where they're going to anyway, right?
Yeah. So, big weekend of college football, high school football, Zozobra. And James, I know you really want to go to Zozobra, but I'm sorry, dude. You're going to have to cover a football game on Friday night just like I will. So.
Yeah, I look really disappointed, don't I, right now? Like, darn, I really wanted to see something burn.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Besides Capital football.
You know what they should do? They should send the sports writers out to cover Zozobra because we would cover it like a sporting event.
We'd give a nice
put up a good fight.
Play.
He put up a good fight. He took it one game at a time, and he took it into the later innings, and he did all right.
I wonder what the post burning interview would be like with Zozobra.
I wouldn't even know what to do with that. I would just but. Look, that'll put a wrap on this week's show. I know everyone's going to drive on down to the wherever the Demons are playing this weekend. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of people.
It was actually a pretty nice crowd that they had last week. I mean, the visiting stands were full with Santa Fe High side, and Capital X had a pretty decent crowd too. So I was mildly surprised by the amount of interest that everybody showed in that football game. Now, granted, most of the Capital fans were gone by the time the fourth quarter rolled around. And definitely by the final gun. I think mainly it was just friends and parents that were there. But, it was actually kind of nice to see a decent crowd for once.
You didn't even mention that the head coach, the note about the coach. I know you put it in your stories, but you haven't mentioned it on here yet.
What's that?
About his noteworthy accomplishment for winning that game.
Oh, yeah. Adrian Gonzalez. Yes, he became the first Santa Fe High coach in 51 years to win his inaugural game. That's 50 years, 51 years of wow, and as a matter of fact, the funny thing is, only 6 other coaches since 1950. If we looked at it from the modern era of Santa Fe of prep football, only 6 coaches in Santa Fe High football history have won their first game.
Wow. Yeah, we should do a trivia question. Name at least 3 of those people.
I can get you 2, but and I don't know if you read this, but I had it in our notes and everything. You would not believe one of the names on there.
Oh gosh! First of all, I didn't read your story, so I couldn't answer.
I know. That's why I knew I had you.
Golly, who would it be? Maybe not Toby Roy Ball. That would be a great. No. That'd be a great answer to that.
No, it would be, but it's not. Let me just put it to you this way: he had maybe the bushiest and most elegant mustache I've ever seen of a high school basketball coach.
Oh, not Armendariz, was it?
Yes, it was.
Wow.
Big Al was a Santa Fe High football coach in 1969 and won his first game.
Wow.
Unfortunately, he only lasted 1 year.
Wow. That's too bad. What'd they do? They must have fired him then, right?
Well, yeah. I'm guessing that's what happened. That's what Santa Fe High is really good at doing.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, they've gone through 12 coaches since or 13 coaches since David Church left in 1981. So, I mean, you average that out. I mean, that's 43 years, 12 coaches. You're barely getting 3 years out of everybody.
Oh. Well, who's going to win I made my prediction for Santa Fe or for Capital St. Mike's. I'm thinking Capital 54 to maybe 0 this weekend. What's your prediction?
Well, I'm also gonna pick 54-0, but it's gonna be St. Mike's over
Yeah, no,
Capital. Maybe I'll give them a 3. Maybe I'll give Capital 3. They'll get a field goal. But Joey's never that benevolent.
I don't know, man.
Remember what he did to Moon his first year there? They scored a field goal on the team that won state. They went
Yeah,
up 3-0, and then he scored 51 unanswered point or 54 unanswered points.
I just see Capital scoring a lot of points in that game. It's gonna be bad. So
I love your persistence, man.
yeah,
You are living in a different world than the rest of us.
right.
Yeah. I'm sure Joey appreciates this. He's going to be playing this on a loop while they practice on Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah, he knows the deal. He knows what's going on.
Oh yeah, he knows. He knows. Even our own even our own alumni doesn't want to pick us.
Well, look, I guess it's all about look. I'm actually getting approached by a security guy now too, so we better wrap this thing up because I parked illegally outside the
There's our
football
interview,
stadium.
man, right there. Just tell
I
him.
know.
Just ask him. Hey,
Right,
you want to spend 5 minutes just grilling our sports editor right here in front of hundreds of people?
Yeah, they're parked a good 15, 20 feet away from me, so it's
Oh,
time to
he is
wrap this
so
bad
eyeing
boy
you, man.
up.
He's probably already writing that ticket up.
Right, right. All right. So, look, all hails to Zobra. Let everyone stay safe out there this weekend, and maybe next week, maybe Matt Dulcite can get us a ring light or something. We'll see if we
There
can
you go.
up our game for next week. But thanks for tuning in, and apologies in advance to St. Mike's for getting smashed this weekend against Capital. So there you go.
Yeah, you go with that, dude.
Yeah.
You go with that.